Mayor Donnie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Donnie is participating via conference call. Deputy Mayor Gibbs? Here. Councilmember Brooks? Present. Councilmember Collins?
Here.
Councilmember Gates?
Present.
Councilmember Meredith?
Here.
Councilmember Levin?
Here.
Manager McKean?
Here.
Attorney Gore?
Here.
Thank you. All right, would everyone stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Downey, you are with us.
Yes, I'm grateful for technology. I cannot be there physically due to an illness, and I have asked the Deputy Mayor, Cherie, to facilitate this meeting and agenda this evening, and thank you for that.
Thank you for being with us via telephone. All right. As we go down our agenda this evening, we don't have any ceremonial matters to share with you. And so we do have a public comment period. We welcome all of you here to the Presiding City Council meeting, and our public comment period, we have some extra time this evening since we don't have ceremonial matters. So we will take up to 3 minutes per person. We're asking for courtesy and respect, and at 6:30 we'll proceed on with the business of the city and the rest of our agenda. So I would like to make sure that we all understand that we mutually show respect and courtesy. Since we have a limited time for public comment, if you would kindly refrain from clapping, booing is inappropriate. Just let people make their statement, and then we'll move on with it in an efficient manner. So, thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to address an item on the agenda this evening? If you would come to the podium first, if you're interested in an agenda item. We'll start with it. All right. We have, I'm going to complete here. Okay. Mark Johnson. State your name and address, please.
Mark Johnson, Samara Drive. Over the past 20 years, we've had a lot of pizza and movie nights at our house with our 4 kids and their friends. Scenario. Before I order for pizza, I ask the kids what they want. Pepperoni, Canadian bacon, olives. Okay, I go order. A half hour later, I arrive with 2 large anchovy pizzas. The kids are beside themselves, which confuses me because, hey, I like anchovies. So we talk about it, the kids and I tell them that they need protein to grow strong muscles, and anchovies are a good source of protein. They counter by listing a dozen or more foods that also have protein in them, but taste a lot better on pizza. I listen to them and I tell them I value their input. I tell them we will review this issue on the next pizza night. A few weeks pass, I get paid. I tell the kids that it's pizza movie night again. What do you want on that pizza? Now these kids aren't dummies. They learned their lesson last time, so they specify no anchovies, anything but. So I go order. I arrive home about a half hour later with 2 large anchovy pizzas, heavy on the capers. The kids feel betrayed. We all voted no, they say. I correct them and say, That wasn't a vote, silly. That was a survey. Besides, you should feel thankful for all that I do for you.
He only has 3 minutes. Please don't applaud. You're wasting his time.
Well, now my wife gets involved. She is disgusted with me, and she asks me how I could do this to them again. I reply that this is best practices. In
If
1890,
you'd summarize your comments, please, sir.
I have 3 minutes. In the 1890s, many pizza joints were putting anchovies on their pizza. This set a precedence by which many more pioneer families were drawn to the region.
Thank you, sir.
Now,
Thank you,
what
sir.
if...
Yes, you have
I have 3 minutes.
3 minutes and we...
I've timed it 2.5 minutes. Now, what if this really happened? Human nature dictates that my kids and their friends would eventually detest me as I continue to exacerbate them senseless.
Thank you, sir. Your time's
I will earn
up.
a
Thank you very
reputation
much. Thank you very
being
much.
hard-headed, a
Mr.
woman,
Johnson,
or
your
both.
time is up. Thank you, sir. All right.
Well, I don't have a prepared speech tonight, so I don't know how long 3 minutes will be, but I think I've said about everything I can say for the last 10 years, about 100 times, maybe 1,000 times. I have a lot of empathy for the first speaker's words of wisdom. Eloise Clallam sent a letter to Dan McKean either earlier today or sometime recently that illustrates the history of this fluoride fiasco in our community and how for 10 years the public's wishes have been ignored. Even so much so that 10 years ago we spent countless hours and lots of money to get initiative and referendum, both signed petitions, presented. They were steamrolled again. There's been a history of this behavior of ignoring the constituents' wishes. Now granted, all of you were not on that city council, but it's continued. I've had a number of good conversations with Patrick. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
I could feel better, but thank you, Jim, for asking.
Okay. I've tried to keep people calm. I hope those that are here tonight will be respectful. Don't scream. If you've got something to say, come up to the podium and say it directly. Nonetheless, I've remained patient for a long time. I'm not a patient man. I am rapidly losing my patience. I have tried to keep those that would change this city government from doing so. We're all painted into a corner. There's only one way out. Somebody on the city council has got to demonstrate enough courage and wisdom to change their vote, follow the public's wishes, eliminate the fluoride, and then all of us who do care deeply about the well-being of this community and the children will put our minds together, our money together to formulate a comprehensive medical and dental plan for this community, which will be much more effective than poisoning the entire area with fluoride. The time is now. If you don't act quickly, I can assure you there will be no turning back. This city government will be changed. Is that what any of us really want?
If you'd summarize your comments,
Okay,
please.
we don't want that, but we will pursue it vigorously. We probably have enough signatures as it is. So I'm imploring you to be wise, do the right thing. Let's work together for a better path. Stop wasting our time on this issue. Move forward into a productive, positive direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet Phelan, 2902 South Regent Street. The issue of water fluoridation in Port Angeles is quickly being eclipsed by the much larger issue of whether the City Council will heed democratic processes and the will of the people. The City Council lost a great deal of credibility by ignoring scientific evidence, citizen pleas, and a citywide poll regarding fluoridation. The public outcry is growing. It is ironic that after 10 years of forcing fluoridation on us, the City Council cannot point to any scientific data that shows an improvement in dental health in Port Angeles. None. Neither the SMILE survey nor the Port Angeles emergency room records showed any improvement. Even worse, the council chose to ignore the fluoridation survey, which revealed that 57% of the respondents were opposed to water fluoridation versus 41% who favored it. After embarrassing themselves with a faulty interpretation of the results, the council decided to disregard the poll entirely, opting to ignore the public majority that so clearly opposed fluoridation. The council prefers instead to rely on what the authorities tell them to do and medicate the people against their will. Yet the authorities have been disastrously wrong, again and again. Remember when the authorities advised us to eat margarine instead of butter, and the heart disease that resulted? Remember when they lectured us to eat a low-fat diet, and the obesity and diabetes that resulted? Remember how the authorities in Flint, Michigan scorned the water concerns of the people, and the tragedy that resulted? On January 19, against the advice of its entire staff, the council reaffirmed its decision to continue water fluoridation for the next 10 years. The council later agreed to ask its staff for advice on how to form an ad hoc committee to look at dental health options. But one wonders if this was done in good faith, given that the council never backed off from its commitment to water fluoridation. We would like to hope that the council's ad hoc committee will fairly present a range of options, and that this in turn leads to a workable compromise. It's obvious that there are cost-effective options, such as health education and toothbrushes, that could help our citizens' dental health without imposing fluoride on everyone.
Would you summarize your comments, please?
The critical issue is whether the City Council will accept anything other than water fluoridation. Ending fluoridation would bring a major conflict to a close and reassure the people that their voices are being heard. The City Council members were elected to represent the will of the people, not to dictate to or rule the people. They're here as our public servants, not our masters. Take note, the sleeping giant is awakening, the giant whose name is democracy.
Thank you. You're taking up time, and if that continues, we'll have to shorten the public comment period. So please, let's all just respect each other and let the speakers have the time. Laura O'Neill, please.
The rest are not helping.
Thank you. Laura O'Neill, Mount Angeles, Port Angeles. Several folks that keep addressing the council, and first of all, I want to thank the council for listening to the three-part process and listening to the educational piece that you yourselves requested, for listening to all the speakers that have come in, all the voices which you listened to, and I appreciate that you did that. Even though I disagree with some of them, I appreciate that you listened. And so you took the three-part process into heart, you thought about it, and you made a decision. And I have to say that if we're going to talk about pizza and food, which obviously I'm really good at that, I would say that if the will of the people was to have chocolate milk come out of our faucets, and we all came in and we said we want chocolate milk, and if we all made a survey and we took a vote, I really have to hope that the city council members, every one of you, would think about what's in the best interest of all of us. I would hope that you would go to people who understand about nutrition. You would go to people who understand about what's best for children, what's best for everyone, and you would consider, is it in the best interest to have chocolate milk instead of water flowing through our pipes? And I hope that you would think and you would do your research. And even if every single person said, I want chocolate milk, I hope that you would still say, because of our three-part process, because of the education, we have to go with water. And because it's the best thing for our community. And the best thing for our community financially and in every other way is to have our water fluoridated. It helps the children. And I understand about toothbrushes. I agree with you about toothbrushes, about good oral care, about good nutrition. I really agree with all of that. And the fact is, some parents, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to be the judge, some parents can't make that happen. Some kids can't make that happen. And if all we as an entire community can give them is a drink of water that helps their teeth, can we at least come together and do that? I'm asking you to really consider what's best for the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was 3 minutes.
Right. I'm sorry, please, let's not make any outbursts. All right. Jess Grable.
Just done.
I have a Jess Grable. Okay. I'm Jess Grable. Jesse? Right there. He's coming. And then Mr. Donges.
I'm Jess Grable, 1117 South Peabody Street. The Washington Public Health has not complied with NSF Standard 60, which requires 20 toxicological tests and a toxic risk assessment on fluoridation materials. So please tell me, who controls the dose? Who knows our average daily intake of this toxic stuff? Not City Council, not the doctors and the dentists, not Dalva Dental, not the Washington Dental Service Foundation. Who knows? Nobody. So let's just get rid of the stuff. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, may I ask that the roll-up door be open? There are people that belong to this community that might be wanting to listen in person rather than through a single doorway.
Yes, I would like to invite people to come in. We have plenty of seats. And rather than wasting time. And our next comment, Mr. Donges, and then Bob Lawrence.
Thank you. I'm Jess Donges. I live at 62 Woodridge Court, just outside of Port Angeles, so I am not a city resident. However, I do business very often inside Port Angeles, and I'm here very often, and I care about this town. I wrote you guys a poem. Dear Council, I come before you most humble. I'm a bit nervous and I just might mumble, but this town divided will not stand. I invite us all to simplify and understand each other, perhaps identify some core principle to discover. For while everyone is on guard, I have seen such little regard for the principle of liberty, for informed consent, which dissent may not reproach. I approach you now with revolution and puberty. May cooler heads prevail and unveil what keeps us all in common. May the council avail themselves away from modern dental shaman. No, not completely, but neither discreetly in relation to an end-all to education. That's too high of a concentration. There's a lot more to it than that. I might have picked a fight in this site. I might have picked a side in this fight, but I am not an anti-dentite. I have no venom for them. And their voices should be heard, just not as sole choices for what is best for the herd. Although I do understand without fail that almost everything is a sliding scale, But when it comes to mass medication, and I know that's not the official definition, but when the rendition of the context changes between their pros and their cons, that might be a sign that something is going on. So call it what it is, and then get informed consent. Only then will there be nothing to vent. Only then will rights not be infringed. Only then will this town not come unhinged. Mr. Webber, I appreciate you being there for this cause. You're the champ of democracy, so the majority makes the laws. But I wish even you would give pause and wonder if that very principle is a relative blunder in this particular case. Mr. Gates, you seem most confident in your place. I don't sense a sense of anything you can't erase. I only wonder what principle you're using that justifies the deeper principles of using. You are at peace with the science, so your conscience is clear. But even if you and they are right, there is much more than that to fear. To every elder member, I know you remember a time in your lives when doctors were trusted. Times have changed, and now the industry reigns, and simple truths have oxidized and rusted.
If you'd summarize your message, sir. Sorry to break your rhythm, but I only got 3 minutes. Wrap it up.
That was a minute and a half, I timed this.
Sir, I'm finding it too.
41 seconds.
If you would summarize, you're almost out of time, sir.
Okay. Now, before you shush my cries, please allow me to summarize. I cry for the core principle of liberty. Why adhere to the step, why adore the steps you took diligently.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Rosemary Cockrell, please.
I'm Bob Lawrence, Markarian. I live at 430 West 5th in Port Angeles.
Oh, I did call you, thank you.
What's that?
Thank you, yes.
I've worked with most of the city council members here when I still worked and had a day job. I would like to say that I appreciate and respect anybody that runs for public office. It is not an easy thing to do. And I will say, however much I may differ with some of the council members, I believe we're all looking to make our city better. However, I'm going to make some assumptions here before I get to my point. I'm going to assume that sodium chloride prevents cavities. Okay? I'm going to assume that the fluorosilicic acid that we get from the fertilizer plant in Wyoming is clean. Doesn't bring any hitchhikers with it like lead and arsenic. I'm going to assume that the amount of fluorosilicic acid that's in our water is safe, at safe levels. I'm going to assume that everybody in our town would benefit from a systematic uptake, who would benefit from the systematic uptake of fluorosilicic acid actually drinks the tap water. I see a lot of kids that drink bottled water, soda, juice, various other things. Finally, I will assume that tap water is generally safe, despite what some of the bottled water companies tell us. They're putting out an atmosphere of fear so that we're actually afraid of our tap water. Okay, those are my assumptions. Here's where I differ from the fluoride 4 on the city council. I and many others are being medicated without our consent. There's no way to know what kind of dosage we're actually getting. A friend of mine just talked about that recently. There are plenty of people who drink tap water. Some people drink gallons of it a day. Some people drink none. And not only is that poor math, hoping that one dosage fits all, I think it's poor medicine. I don't know of any other medicine prescribed that doesn't take into account the particular disease, the particular person, and the particular length of the disease. And by the way, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I think vaccines are one of the most important things that have happened for public health in 100+ years. However, people that are anti-vaccine and don't want to have their children vaccinated have a choice. They may have to live with the consequences. They may not be able to send their kids to a public school, but they still have that choice about what goes into their children's bodies and the amounts that go in. There are other ways to help those besides putting fluoride in our water. You've heard some of those toothbrushes, and I will agree that systemic uptake is possibly the most effective, but there's other ways to do it. By God, we're a country and a community that's come up with innovations for our whole life. We put a man on the moon, for crying out loud. We can do something to help kids' teeth besides putting fluoride in water.
Could you summarize, sir?
Yes, sir, ma'am. Very quickly, this is off my script. My grandfather was in the Russian Revolution. The peasants were told to be patient, things would go better, and as a result, my grandfather escaped with his life while the rest of my family was executed. My grandmother was in the Armenian genocide and similarly escaped because the Ottoman Turks told her, be patient, things will be well. This is certainly not on the level of the Bolshevik Revolution or the American genocide, but I still say democracy can be messy, it can be sloppy, it can be impolite at times, but this is what makes our country.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
I hope you'll bear with me.
Your name and address, please, ma'am.
My name, I'll tell you in a minute.
Thank
You
you.
will bear with me, thank you. My name is Rosemary Cockrum, and I live just east of Port Angeles, and whether I like it or not, I get fluorosilic acid water for my water.
What is your address, ma'am?
I live at 494 Marsden Road.
Thank you.
PUD is my water carrier in that area, and that's the water they get is from the city. I'd like to talk about consumer products. This little box has sodium chloride, regular toothpaste. Over 60 years, it's been used by the public effectively. It says it's a pre-cavity protector, and it works. My children are old enough that I can say that with all good faith. Now, on this label, it also tells what's in it and the directions to use it and the amount to use it. You use it twice a day, tells you the amount to put on the toothbrush, you brush good, you swish, then you rinse, and it goes down the drain. That's 1 cup twice a day. However, there's another product. This. It's the water that you produce for the people in this area to use. It comes with no label, no instructions for its use. It doesn't tell you how much to use. Is it the 8 glasses of water a day that the doctors recommend? Or is it less than that? Can you get too much? Can you get too little? If you also drink coffee and tea in addition to that 8 glasses of water a day, how does that affect you? Those are things that you should think about in making your decision. Giving everyone something, because a few people are not always able to do the things that they should. If we all had to do that all our life, I'm not sure any of us would be happy with our lives. I'll say one last thing. PUD, the Port Angeles area, has a highly qualified staff.
Madam, your time is up. I'm so sorry.
I will just finish this very shortly. They try very hard to do a top-notch job for you and the city and all the residents therein. It's a puzzlement why you hire this kind of staff and then not listen to them.
Madam, your time is up, and we appreciate your comments.
And don't count on
Okay.
a short-term.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. This concludes our public comment. Madam, your time is up. Madam, your time is up. We're taking a 2-minute break. Public comment 6:30.
We're refusing our right to speak.
We have a second public comment period at the end of our meeting. Our first public comment period went until 6:30. Now it's time to start our business meeting, so.
Mr. Moore, I'd like an attorney's opinion on what Deputy Mayor is trying to do here. This is a public comment period, and we are bound to listen.
Out of order, out of order. Council needs to be respectful. Our public comment period. 5-minute recess. We're on recess. 5-minute recess. Now you're wasting time.
Wasting everyone's time.
We'll be getting started back on our agenda, and we now have 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end of the meeting. So for those, we have to limit time to get our business done. Our last meeting, unfortunately, we were here till midnight, which is entirely unfair to staff. So we have to get on with the agenda, but there will be a second public comment period, and we look forward to your comments at that time. So now, are there any late items to place on this or future agendas?
Deputy Mayor, I had actually, point of order, I had asked the real mayor for his opinion about shutting off public comment period.
Lee, I think if I understand, at the beginning of the meeting, it was noted that this period would be limited to let us get into the heart of the agenda. I think that's what I understood was the order of business this evening.
And you feel that we voted on that, Mr. Mayor, as a council?
With this matter, we need to be able to conduct the matter of business, and there is still an additional period of time in the course of this agenda to continue the public comment period. I don't think that is being restricted this evening.
Our previous public comment periods were 15 minutes, and this evening we extended that from 6:05 to 6:30. So
We've actually always extended the public comment period to make sure everyone that wanted to speak had a chance to speak.
No, sir, we haven't always, so it's time to
In
move
my
on.
2 years, yes, we have.
No, we
Deputy
haven't.
Mayor.
Sir, you're out of order. Any late items on this or future agendas?
So for the record, Mr. Downey, is that your opinion?
What I understand is that there is adequate, there was noted that this first public comment period was going to last until 6:30. I think I understood that to be the case, and I believe that's what happened. And I understand further that there is a second, as has been noted on the agenda, a second public comment period.
And as the mayor of the city of Port Angeles, you approve of this, is my question to you, sir.
I believe this is the way we need to do this tonight, ladies.
Okay, thank you. All right, any late items to place in this or future agendas, Councilman? Here are none?
There is none from staff.
Okay, well, move on to consent agenda. Are there any items of particular discussion off the consent agenda? All right, if not, I'll read the consent agenda. City Council minutes, January 5th, 2016 to January 19, 2016. Number 2, expenditure approval list, January 9, 2016 through January 22nd, 2016, in the amount of $2,135,120.41. Number 3, amendment to agreement for the Port Angeles Fine Arts Center. Number 4, Department of Ecology site rental agreement. Number 5, update to professional services agreement with Systems Design West, LLC. And number 6, equipment purchase, police sedan replacement.
I move that the agenda is approved as written.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you, council. Now we're going to move to G1, franchise ordinance. Mr. Bloor, please.
Thank you. This is the first reading of an ordinance that is intended to provide a process and procedure for the application for new franchises and renewal of existing franchises. This came about because of the Wave television cable franchise. All of you are familiar that the Wave cable television franchise was granted in 2002, and it will expire in 2017. Noting that, we on staff began the process for renewal of that franchise in 2014. Might seem like a long time, but it is not. Since 2002, when the Wave franchise was granted, federal law has become more and more involved in cable television and telecommunications matters. And so nowadays, a 3-year process for cable television renewal is not unusual at all. So we began in 2014, and part of that process was simply to review what we had in place at that time. What had been done in 2002, what the current standards were. One of the first things that we noticed was that we do, and we have had, a number of ordinances and regulations regarding the city right-of-ways. So if you want to put a water line in the city right-of-way, there's a process for that. And the same is true for other utilities, but there wasn't anything specific with regard to television cable franchises. And that was significant because, again, over the passage of time, the law, and particularly the federal regulation of TV cable franchises, has changed and expanded quite a bit. And so it was our opinion on staff that The failure of our current ordinances to address specifically these franchises was probably a detriment to the city and the citizens. The franchise is a long-term agreement with a cable company. That agreement allows the cable company to use the city's rights-of-way and to use the city's rights-of-way to make money and profit. And in exchange for that, the city has certain rights that it can exercise and it can acquire under a cable franchise. Also, because of federal law, there are some things that we can't do. And what's important is to recognize everything that we can do and take advantage of that. And also recognize what we can't do so that we don't mislead ourselves or the citizens about what the results might be of a new cable franchise. So this ordinance tonight is an effort to adopt new regulations and new policy that outlines how we go about a franchise renewal and also how we go about a new franchise issuance. And you can see that the ordinance is quite detailed and lengthy. What we have tried to do was to introduce all of the new elements that have not been covered elsewhere in our existing ordinances, and at the same time, try to integrate those portions of the right-of-way ordinances that already exist into the franchise ordinance so that they complement and coordinate with the same kind of right-of-way permitting that we require for other utility-type services. And the result, I think, is about 80 pages long, quite detailed. And the purpose of that really is to make sure that everything that needs to be addressed in a franchise ordinance is addressed in the franchise ordinance. And that we have a proper process for doing that. And that we make a community needs assessment a central part of that process, so that we do analyze, we do hear from the community, we analyze what the interests of the community are. As an example, through that process, with the renewal of the wave cable process, there was quite an interest in the what's called PEG channels, the educational and the public channels. So that is an example of what would be included as a standard part of the franchise renewal process, and also for new franchise ordinances. So that's what this ordinance is all about. I know it's lengthy, and it's very detailed, but basically what it does is set out a process that is intended to allow the city to get the very best service we can from these cable companies who want to come into our community and use our rights of ways to get to make a profit. So this is for first reading. We will continue to go through the ordinance because it is lengthy. It does try to integrate with other existing ordinances. We will want to check all of our references and things like that. So if tonight, or if in the next couple of weeks, you see anything in there that raises a question, you see any questions about it, and please, by all means, feel free to bring it up, because we ourselves will continue to go through this over the next couple of weeks to make sure that it is adequate and correct. So with that, I would entertain any questions. Again, it's a first reading, so no action tonight. First reading and continue to the next meeting.
Are there any questions of Mr. Blower?
Yes, I do. I was trying to get through this, and I had a really hard time because there's some language in here that just got a little overwhelming. You're right, there's 80 pages of it, and about 3/4 of the way through, I just kind of gave up. but I will finish this up. One of the things that would bother me that I may not know what needs to be in here, per se, and I was wondering if maybe our current group, the PAPA, has been asked whether there's anything else that they see that needs to go in here to review it. I mean, they seem to be moving forward in getting us our channels, so I thought that maybe they should have some input into this ordinance as well.
I perfectly look into that. Actually, Mr. Wilson, I hope that on behalf of the PA, has received a copy of the council memo and of the ordinance draft as of this tonight. And I will say that I will certainly be welcome and open to hear anything you have to say about that. And if there's any other, anyone else who might be interested in the terms of the ordinance or the background of it, if they just send me an email, I'll send an electronic copy of the whole thing.
The other idea that, because it's such a long, lengthy document, whether there might be other, I don't know if you've done this already or not, other cities whose ordinance we can maybe compare, copy, that kind of thing, to make sure that we've got the latest and greatest stuff in here.
Yeah, actually, that's already been done. This, the ordinance was put together with the help of the city's consultant on the cable renewal process. That consultant works with cities all over the United States. So we did, the way the process worked is, we started with some samples from other communities, and with the help of the consultant, we identified what are the current issues, what are the things that we need to look out for and make sure that we want to get covered in a cable renewal franchise or the issuance of a new franchise. So we kind of made a checklist of those. We reviewed about half a dozen other ordinances that had been current, they were up to date. And so we've done that. I can provide you with more background, but basically, this has been in the works for well over a year now. And so we started with that basic background stuff, making a checklist, what issues should be involved, what can we do legally, what we can't do legally. And then, only then did we actually start trying to write the thing and get it to mesh in with our existing code.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Any other questions before I read the ordinance? And I'll read it. An ordinance regulating the occupancy and use of public rights-of-way by television cable systems and open video systems, providing for establishment of customer service standards, establishing franchise and licensing requirements for operators of such systems, and prescribing terms and conditions for and upon the construction, maintenance, and repair of such systems, amending chapters 11.08 and 11.14 of the Port Angeles City Code, all relating to television cable systems and open video systems. And so that was the first reading. We have our homework for us to ask any questions before the next council meeting, and it'll be on our next agenda next meeting. So thank you, Mr. Blower. Okay, let's move to I-1, other considerations, Clallam County Economic Development Corporation funding.
Madam Mayor and Council, this evening staff is following through with Council's request from the January 19th meeting. As a reminder, at the January 19th meeting, Council did make a motion to move forward with option 2 for EDC funding for 2016. The motion did not move forward due to the fact that it required a supermajority relative to amendment of the 2016 budget. Staff was then asked of Council, a consensus of Council, to move back and bring additional options at this evening's Council meeting. Staff has done that. We have looked in detail at the city budget and have identified some funding within the 2016 existing budget that could be contributed towards the contract with the Economic Development Council it is important to recognize the diligent work that the EDC put forward in 2015 to gain private sector support. And I can tell you they have a great deal of Port Angeles businesses supporting them as of 2015, so significant progress there. I do think it's important too, though, that council and staff greatly respect the priority setting process that took place. And I think if you take a look at the option that was put forward by staff this evening, which we consider to be an additional option for council consideration, in addition to those 3 options provided at the last meeting, I think it's important to recognize that the option put forward does respect that priority setting process. In fact, what it looks for and strives for is equity with some of those other entities that were also deemed to be external agencies during the priority setting process. So if you look at the additional option provided, you'll note that staff has identified up to $10,000 to contribute to the EDC as a standing contract with an additional potential amount incorporated in the budget that could be added subject to the successful retention, expansion, and recruitment of existing Port Angeles businesses. So I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions, but I will note that, as you'll see in the staff report, this would be a fair and equitable treatment relative to the way other entities were treated. Thank you.
Question? Councilmember Collins.
Well, I was the one that asked for this review and see what alternatives there were, and I appreciate the work that's done by staff. And after discussion, I would like to recommend we follow the direction that's been presented tonight.
Is that a motion, sir?
Yes, it is.
Is the motion on the floor?
And for clarification, before seconding that, that would be the $10,000 and any additional amount towards infrastructure?
Correct. And my understanding is that there could be additional funds available with success in creating jobs.
But no commitments to those additional funds at this point at all?
So it won't be up to $10,000.
Okay, I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we fund the Economic Development Council with for $10,000 with an unspecified budget amount in restricted NICE funds for community infrastructure enhancement should it be needed. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I'd like to speak to the motion.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure I have the motion correct, sir.
Chief Financial Officer Olson or Nathan, could either one of you help me if I forgot a group that we've left out, council's previous actions have identified cuts that were necessary to keep our budget in as best financial shape as we can. United Way, Youth and Family Services cut, Faro Marine Life Center, Olympic Peninsula Humane Society. Now, seems like 2 months ago that we had another council full of folks that supported the pets. Now, we did find some money for the pets for this year's budget, 2016, but the fact of the matter is, we've still identified to staff further cuts to Olympic Peninsula Humane Society in 2017. In fact, it'll be less than a year before we're back visiting this same topic again with Olympic Peninsula Humane Society. I just want to make this point again that I did 2 weeks ago, that the Port of Port Angeles is charged with economic development from our state legislature. We actually have a member of our staff that is responsible for the city's economic development. He's paid full-time and we take care of him. I can't see supporting whatsoever without a full restoration of these groups that I previously mentioned, without a restoration of their funding, I can't support going against what we've prior approved of the 2016 budget.
Madam Deputy Mayor, if I may clarify, I think it's important to recognize that relative to the United Way, Faro Marine Life Center, and the Fine Arts Center, each of those entities was a phased-out approach. So it was phased out essentially over a 3-year period, with the 4th year resulting in zero funding from the city as far as the priorities process went. Relative to the Humane Society, I think that's important that we come back and discuss with council relative to priority setting, because we did deviate from the priority setting process on that item, and that we funded it to the full contract amount that was expected in the contract for 2016. So they actually received an increase in funding for 2016. Relative to the EDC and the original budget that was approved by council, the entire $15,000 from the EDC was struck, resulting in a funding amount of 0. So what staff was indicating was, to be fair and equitable, you would see a phased-out approach with the EDC that would essentially transition over time, just as we did with the other external agencies in the priority setting process.
Nathan, I would like to agree with you that we did increase funding to Olympic Peninsula Humane Society, but in reality, all we did was restore the amount that we originally had agreed to, and they went ahead and assembled the building based on the amount of money we were going to give them. So yes, we did increase it in our budget proposal, but again, all we did was back up what we had promised we would do for the Humane Society.
All right, any other comments?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, please.
well, I want to say that I'm just, for me, it's very important that the EDC, the city, the port, the county, all these important entities in our community continue to work together to grow our economy. I've been very impressed and appreciative of the efforts of Bill Greenwood and his staff at the EDC office, in the way they have acted in a professional and a positive way, becoming a more self-sustaining entity. And I, therefore, am pleased to support the motion that has been proposed by Mr. Collins tonight.
All right, thank you. Any other council members? Yeah. Councilmember Brooks.
I have been struggling with this one. I've met now twice with a couple of folks about the EDC. And I believe it's a really important entity, and it's important that we all work together. Now, with that being said, we also had our priority setting that said we weren't going to fund them. And the reason the EDC was selected not to receive any more funds was because they had had such a poor record of results. Such incredible poor record. Now, the EDC has got new leadership. And like I said, talking with some of these business folks, there has been some movement forward, some positive movement forward. So here's where I'm a little bit unsure of what to do, because they are showing some results. They are showing some results. But we do have the port, whose main mission, who we pay taxes to, all of us pay taxes to the port for economic development. The city's the city's area of this is for us to deal with infrastructure so that someone who comes in can actually grow well here. So our economic development really comes in the form of good roads, good water, good sewer, that kind of thing. So, and we're working on trying to get some of those. I know we're behind the ball on that. So I'm grateful to staff for what they've done here. They found some money, but I'm not sure that I can quite support this, because it is money that maybe needs to go in another way. Like I said, our roads desperately need it, and for economic development. So, and I'm not sure what to do. Anyway, so I thought I'd explain to you guys, folks, sometimes these decisions are not as straightforward, because I do appreciate that the EDC is finally moving forward. We are actually getting a little movement forward, but last year was their last year of getting any funds from us because they were doing so badly. And so since last year they didn't perform, this was the reason why they get the punishment of not getting any funds from us. But they are now moving forward. So anyway, I thought I'd explain them. I'm not quite sure yet what to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Days.
Sissy, thank you so much for those comments, because I think you were right on for an awful lot of that, and I'm going to try to persuade you with a couple of thoughts. What we find is that if we were looking for a solution to all the challenges of our city budget-wise, we wanted more money for United Way, for the arts, for the marine, all those things. The answer to all that is jobs here in our community. More jobs brings in a tax base, which is going to pay the bills for all that kind of stuff, and spread all that over. That's simple, basic Econ 101. We all know that to be true. So we also acknowledge that the port has a charge from the state to do economic development, but that means they are charged with doing it. It doesn't mean that the rest of us don't get to help. So a couple of weeks ago, I attended the annual dinner for the EDC, as did Nathan, and Cherie was there too. And the thing that struck me out of the probably close to 200 people there, that it was the business people, the ones that are writing the paychecks, that have 2 employees to over 100 employees to nearly over 1,000 employees. They're the ones that are behind this. They've signed up, they're paying their own funds to be members of the EDC, because they, with their business scrutiny, has looked at what the EDC has started to accomplish and the traction that they're getting, and they're very impressed. And their real concern is, if they're working and they believe and they're putting their money in, why doesn't the city want to back them up to support jobs? And I think $10,000 is, in one respect, it's an awful lot of money, but we spend that about every 16 minutes consistently. And we have the funds available. And I think that it would be doing our business community and the EDC and the whole overall focus of trying to attract more jobs to our community. I think this would be short-sighted not to join in on this partnership.
Councilmember Meredith.
Oh, one more last thing. And I just have to say, Lee, I'm surprised because you're quoting the priority system, but you were the one that chose not to participate in the priority setting thing. You didn't fill it out, you didn't want anything to do with it.
Absolutely, I appreciate you pointing that out for everyone, Councilmember Gase. I did not participate in that because I thought we should actually look at staff levels of mid-management level within the city, but I did not get any supports with that, so yeah, I did protest. Thank you for pointing that out.
Councilmember Meredith.
I wasn't here for the priority setting process, but I understand what Mr. Gase is saying for the economy. We also need to have an area that people can come into. We have some infrastructure problems downtown. Anybody that's walked downtown recently, people say if we have better schools, we'll have more business. Well, we can't continue to divert money. I think that money, in my opinion, would be better spent on infrastructure and on bettering our city and letting the port take care of that. I've also seen the county commissioners, I believe, approved a sizable amount of money towards the Economic Development Council also. But we need to make sure that our area is top-notch and ready to go for when these businesses do want to come to that town. And I also, along with Sissy, I'm torn on this. I have spent a lot of hours pondering what to do with this, and I had a question for Mr. West earlier tonight, and then what is...
You have an answer for it.
Okay.
So the question, if I may, was what is the average contribution of private sector businesses to the EDC? And I can tell you there's a broad range, meaning that there's been some very large sums dedicated to the EDC as well as some smaller dollar amounts, but the average would be a few $100s.
Okay, thank you for that. So right now, I'm not sure I can support this. Sooner or later you have to say stop, and the excuse of how much money we spend every 10 minutes or whatever it may be, that in my opinion is it's not okay to continue with that status quo. The city has to start looking ahead at getting these businesses in here and getting the infrastructure caught up and getting some of our roads ready and some of our sidewalks ready before they continue to cost us more money further down the road.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Mayor.
Nathan, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Is it your opinion that this option that you promoted tonight does not take away the opportunity to have the EDC provide metrics that demonstrate the concerns that Sissy and others have raised about growing businesses and having some accountability for these funds?
That is very correct, and that, as noted in the memo, staff will be bringing back to City Council a contract. That contract would have detailed performance measures relative to the expectations of the EDC through the year 2016. I think it's important too, as other council members noted, that the county commissioners are also having a similar discussion, wanting to ensure that there are detailed performance measures met for the year 2016. So I certainly envision that staff will be diligent in ensuring those measures are incorporated in a contract that's brought forward as a result of any council action this evening.
I would think we could be considered to be irresponsible if we did not include that we asked, and therefore I would hope that would give you some reassurance that we're not trying to reduce in any measurable way the accountability factor as a result of this option and the subsequent motion that's set before you tonight.
Councilmember Collins.
Well, I'd like to also try to add some thought to the questions that you brought up, Councilmember. One, I think that, well, the port, and I certainly am a strong supporter of the port, is well charged with doing economic development. Their focus is actually on port property in the public portion of that economic development. The EDC, I believe, is doing a great job of transitioning to be more of a private sector economic development engine. And it's real clear the port continues to participate in the EDC, as does the county, and does the state. The state has the majority share. As the central economic hub of North Atlantic Peninsula, part of my motion is to continue our participation in that collaboration process. I think it's both a public and a private approach. And as long as other public agencies and entities and jurisdictions are engaged, I think we should remain engaged too. We reduced our amount. The bulk of my motion here is to retain the money in the infrastructure improvements, not in operations of the EDC. And I believe over the next year or two, we'll see how that works out. So I would like us to continue to participate as other jurisdictions are doing so in 2016 and pick it up again when we look at priorities, which I think are important too.
May I also ask a question of Councilmember Collins?
Go ahead.
Brad, I think you probably have had as much exposure and awareness of the comings and goings and the, if you will, the operational administrative way the EDC has been operating in this last number of months in particular. Would it be fair for me to say that you have seen a witness to the seriousness upon which Bill and the staff and the board there at EDC recognizes our previous concerns and have, by their ability to draw such a strong support from their membership base, is this evidence to you that they get what we've been after and this is headed in the right direction?
Certainly. I believe that EDC has made great changes in how they operate. I know that one of their board members is here in the room, Mr. Ryan Wong, and you will see from their reports that the agency, or the EDC itself, has become very much a private sector oriented group. Almost all the board members are now private sector people, and the funding partners that are public have less say in what exactly is going on, but that doesn't mean that the metrics that you're talking about aren't the primary focus of those public dollars. I think by having those public dollars there, it does increase the likelihood that those metrics will continue to be relevant.
Well, I guess in conclusion, I would just add, and lastly, that I go back to where I started my comments, and that was that the EDC, the city, the board, the county must work to stand together to grow this economy and bring the jobs and support the jobs that already exist here. I think this measure tonight puts us in that position. I think anything short of endorsing this motion tonight would not be the right step.
Thank you, Mayor Downey. I concur. The EDC, Economic Development Council of Clallam County, is partnering with and supported by the Department of Commerce, and they give a lot of information to the EDC to recruit businesses into Port Angeles, and that's the type of partnership we need. The reason we did our priority setting was because of our shrinking revenues. We had to cut back. That's not what we want to do every year. We want increasing revenues so we can increase our infrastructure, and that's not by shrinking the pie and giving everyone a smaller piece. That's by increasing our community, increasing our business, so that we all benefit and we all pay less taxes because there's more of us to share. But the EDC has grown their private sector members by 100% this last year, and they have really done what we asked them to. They're interested in, they're working for any benefit. Companies that come into Clallam County benefit Port Angeles, that will benefit our businesses, our economy, our schools. They work on jobs, but they work on business retention. They have visited approximately 120 businesses last year to offer advice on tax incentives and growing businesses. Now, not only do we want new jobs, we want to keep the businesses we have. It's so important, as well as recruitment. So I highly support the EDC. I'm like Councilmember Brooke. I'm so encouraged by the positive steps I've seen this last year, so I would support this motion. So thank you. Please give it Councilmember Collins. Wrap it up.
Well, if you look at the direction or the recommendation of this alternative on the bottom of page I-2, it suggests we direct staff and give them some specific amounts, and I believe that the first blank for a base amount up to $10,000 would be appropriate. For the second amount, which talks about infrastructure, I'd actually ask Councilmember Brooke and Meredith if they have a suggestion on what that dollar amount ought to be for infrastructure contribution.
I'd like to weigh in on this, because I guess the more I think about it, one of the things, I'll address that in a little bit, but one of the things that comes to mind is we have Forks, and Forks has decided that they don't have the funds to be able to join the EDC. So I cannot imagine that this entity that's supposed to cover the whole Clallam County would neglect Forks, because they just didn't have the funds to do that. I can't imagine that this entity would neglect Port Angeles if we didn't have the money to do this. In addition, I would also know that I would hope that the EDC would be, I wouldn't say big enough to know that just because we may not have the funds to fund them doesn't mean that we're turning our backs on them. Actually, we really support what they're doing. We all want more jobs out here. The question is, do we want to take the money out of our roads, or do we want to take, to give to the EDC, or do we want to give it to the EDC and then have really sucky roads? Yes, it's only 10,000, but every little bit helps our infrastructure. So that's the debate. So I don't believe that it's whether I vote for this or against this, whether I'm against the EDC. And I know it says people, it's like, it would be, how do we engage with the EDC? I would hope that the EDC would be willing to engage with us, whether we financially gave them money or not. Now, as I understand it, we have pots of money in different places that if a company comes in and says, gosh, we really need some help in utility connections, we actually have some money to do that. So that's one of the reasons I would say I would leave that blank, because I know that staff had recommended possibly just leave that blank because we have different places where that happens. So like I said, the more I struggle with this, I would love to give some money to the EDC because they are doing some work, but I really can't. In the bottom of my heart, I cannot take that money away from our infrastructure. I know that people say, well, now you're against jobs. I am not against jobs. I really believe that if our infrastructure, if our schools, if our roads are in good shape, we will attract businesses. Okay? If our roads are not in good shape, or our infrastructure, our schools, then we will not attract businesses. So I know people, some shaking their heads, some agreeing. We have differences of opinion here. I totally believe that that our infrastructure comes first. So I will not be supporting this. I'm sorry.
So, Councilman Collins.
Well, I would fill in the blank, and I would fill in the blank with additional $15,000 in infrastructure contribution. And I believe that's in addition to the $100,000 that's budgeted in the restricted NICE funds. Is that correct, Mr. West?
So the total available for infrastructure from NICE funds would be $100,000. There would not be an additional 15 available.
Okay, so I'm not putting any additional funds in, then we just leave it blank?
I think it would certainly be fine to leave it blank, recognizing that should an opportunity arise, that we will ensure that we go after that opportunity and support publicly owned infrastructure for any project that comes along with the job creating opportunity.
Okay. Part of my logic in this is that if eventually we stop making a contribution to the operation of the EDC, that we are beginning to identify what we would actually be contributing in terms of infrastructure support.
So I need a clarification on your motion, sir. Are you amending your motion to this paragraph?
Well, my motion was actually more towards the funding overview paragraph, which was that we identified $10,000 in a restricted economic development account identified for special projects to go to the EDC.
All right. Then we have a motion on the table, motion second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Mayor, are you with us?
Yeah, aye.
I just want to know if you're still with us, all right. All opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay. Then the motion passed, 4-3. Thank you, Council. Okay.
Excuse me, didn't that mean a supermajority?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. West, could you address?
Madam Mayor, again, the additional option that was presented this evening did not require a supermajority.
Let me step in.
Within the budget.
I had not reviewed this earlier, but this is going to cause some difficulty, but I am not sure that it does not need a supermajority. I'm not certain that the restricted funds were budgeted, and secondly, I'm not certain that that the NICE funding could be used in support of the EDC. NICE funding could be used in support of capital projects. So I need to do some more research on this before I can say that it falls within what is required by state law for budgeting.
Thank you.
So, Madam Deputy Mayor, let me clarify, it was reviewed by the Finance Department. Certainly last week, the Chief Financial Officer was out for a period of time. It was reviewed by their senior management. I can verify that it is in fact in the 2015 budget. It's listed in the Economic Development account line item, $20,000 in special projects, 10 of which has already contributed to other special projects. $10,000 was determined to be available, and again, it was reviewed by Finance.
So I think it stands, and if you have any further information, if you could get back to us.
I would actually ask our attorney, city attorney Bill Glore, have you got an opinion about this, Mr. Glore?
Sorry about that. No, I have not reviewed it. I saw the memo, and the memo indicated the money had already been budgeted. I did not review that personally. I could certainly talk to our Chief Financial Officer tomorrow, and we can review and determine what the status of that is. If there is reason for any question about the validity of the motion, you can report that back to council.
Yes, the report back. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Let's move on to J1,
Madam
Finance.
Deputy Mayor, there's one additional issue with
Yes, sir.
being that council has a motion in support of bringing back the contract to City Council at this time for the EDC. We do need to make sure we have an active representative to the EDC board. At this point in time, the council appointment of Mr. Orville Campbell has expired. Staff would suggest that we extend that appointment until such time that we can advertise to fill that position. And then once the advertising has been done, we would envision that we would bring new applicants to council for consideration for that private sector position. And the same would be done with the opportunity fund board representation.
Members?
I would move that we extend Orville. I did talk to Mr. Campbell about this. He is willing to continue to defend it. I would move his continued appointment to the EDC and the opportunity board.
I fully support an open advertisement for members of within our community that would also would like to serve on this board as well. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you. All right.
So I guess I'll second that motion to extend the Orville's term.
Thank you for your input. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you very much. Now we'll move to J1, Finance, Landfill, Bluff Stabilization Project Settlement Change Order. Mr. Fulton, please.
Council, what I'm bringing forward to you today is a change order number 12 for the landfill cell stabilization project. And what I'm going to be discussing in this next couple minutes is a comprehensive settlement to a number of issues with the landfill. So when we went into the, let me go back zero all the way to 2014, when we were excavating the landfill, discovered massive amounts of asbestos which were not expected and were not taken into consideration in the contract. So there were delays to the contract productivity, there were additional equipment and manpower requirements, and so they needed to be duly compensated for dealing with this vast amounts of asbestos. If you remember, we did a unilateral change order in 2014 to initially compensate the contractor. It was just over $1 million for their extra effort. And that was to get money in their pocket. And we could justify that over $1 million and get money in their pocket so they can pay their subcontractors and personnel. But that didn't close the issue. Originally, they had original claim of $3.4 million against the city for this effort.
We paid them $1 million in a justifiable unilateral change order back in 2014. So that gave a difference of $2.3 million that was still outstanding. We've sat down contract several times, presented all our data as to why our numbers were justified and theirs were not. They reduced their claim to $1.7 million, $1.17 million. With an additional outstanding change order we knew was coming for the mechanically reinforced wall. So they still had $1.5 million in claims against the city. So we went into mediation to resolve the asbestos issue. They were coming in at $1.5 million. We felt we owed them about $353,000. At the end of the mediation, everybody agreed that we didn't owe them $1.5 million, we didn't owe them $353 million that the city proposed. We actually owed them, we had a settlement agreement of only $300,000 to wrap up the asbestos issue, to wrap up their expected change order for the mechanically engineered earthen wall. Now, I'm going to go back to what I said before. It was a comprehensive settlement, so there were a number of issues that were resolved during this, and I'll talk about them right here for the audience's knowledge. So the final financial outlay for the change order was $300,000. It also released the city from all future claims by the contractor, except for 4 minor change orders that are still outstanding there. That's about $100,000 for those 4 change orders. Well, part of the agreement was that we would extend their contract duration to February 26, 2016, and they're just about wrapped up with the construction out there right now. Also we agreed to accept their apprentice utilization rate of, at the time, was 13.4%. The reason was that they expected a 14% apprentice utilization, and if you recall, the ordinance says requires a 15% utilization rate. But that was part of the comprehensive settlement, was approving their current apprenticeship. But the best thing, it resolves all outstanding issues on this contract. So in final analysis, I believe it was last council meeting, there was a statement, public comment, that we're $3 million over budget. With this settlement, we're actually $1 million under budget for a very complicated construction contract. Whenever you're digging into the earth, vast quantities, you don't know what you're going to expect, and actually coming in $1 million under budget was a testament to the project managers we had on site that council approved, and also the engineering staff that was on the site on a daily basis. So, very successful mediation, and with that, I'll bring forward any questions you might have or concerns. Thank you.
Comments, council? Councilmember Whitmer?
Greg, I've got a problem with the apprenticeship utilization requirement that we didn't hit the 15% minimum as adopted by council 2 years ago when I actually was elected to office. So I've got this handout which states that this contractor was down at the local hotel and restaurant staff asking if they'd like to work as apprentices on the job. What I would actually like to see, if there truly is a shortage, an actual email or a copy of a dated letter that shows me the time and date that the state certified different apprenticeships were approached and asked about availability of a local workforce that could go to work on this project. I especially value staff's opinion about how we can make this better, but from my knowledge, the state certified apprenticeship is, whether it's union or non-union, are the only ones that actually control the apprenticeships. The fact that this contractor was down asking wait staff if they want to work on the job, that's so beyond, I just don't understand it. It doesn't even make sense to me. It would totally make sense again to me that you go to the schools that teach this, this particular contractor, from my knowledge, needed the operating engineers. And again, there should be a union and a non-union state-certified apprenticeship. And that's what we're trying to do, is get an apprentice, preferably local, on this project. And the piece of paper that I received earlier does not support their position of doing a diligent search for the required 15% minimum of the apprentices. So I'd like to see, we're going to be voting on this, and with this turned in for their contractor homework, I actually can't support it. So this work the staff has done, they're going to actually give away our 15% requirement based on this letter that makes no sense to me.
Look, I agree with you 100%. The contract owes, and the staff owes you a final report on apprentice utilization, where it was utilized, how they met their personnel, any problems that they had getting that. And that letter is not the apprentice report that we owe you. So I don't expect you to make a decision based on that email, but it was just one email that came in. Both Anchor QEA, who was the project manager on the landfill, and Nadir, who was project manager on the waterfront projects, have both come forward with recommendations for adjustment to the apprentice ordinance. One of the things they're recommending is, instead of a percentage, that you look at the types of jobs on a contract, and you set a number of man hours for a contract instead of a set percentage. Because on landfill, you were right, it's equipment operators that are the bulk of the man hours. CSO phase, which are difficult to get out in this area. CSO phase 2, and now into the building of pump station number 4. A lot of plumbers, a lot of trades that we find here in Port Angeles, so it's easy for them to get that, hit that percentage. So they're recommending that we move from a percentage to a number of man hours per contract. There are a number of other recommendations that they put forward that will bring to council. But that email that we passed out earlier is not the report that we owe you. I 100% agree.
Until I'm presented with something that shows a contact date from both union and non-union state-certified apprenticeship schools asking for assistance in locating this, instead of going to a restaurant asking the staff if they'd like to become apprentices. Again, this is a joke, and I've not seen the dates when they actually asked. Again, the state-certified apprenticeship. And I'd like to remind everyone here that tonight that this is actually modeled on how our public schools are built. So what we're doing as a council is accepted statewide, and it applies to much smaller and much more remote areas in Port Angeles. So again, it's 15% minimum. That's not to say that the contractor can't exceed that amount. They could easily hit 20% if that contractor so chooses to. But it's pretty obvious to me that, from my knowledge yet, I've not seen anything where they've made a diligent search for these apprentices. Again, I can't support it until I see more information forthcoming from staff.
Any other comments regarding the landfill stabilization chamber? Councilmember Collins.
Well, as you recall, I was not terribly in favor of this solution for our landfill. I thought it was too expensive, and I thought that our ratepayers were going to have a great deal of difficulty meeting these costs. But I do appreciate that the job is done now, and that the result is under budget. And, so I am prepared to accept the recommendation.
Is that a motion, sir?
No.
All right, Heather.
Yeah, I really appreciate staff finding the solution, because I think this is a really good solution to a lot of problems that we had. A lot of things we didn't expect. We really did not expect to be in this, the issue with finding all the asbestos and all the extra problems. So I think this is a really good solution. I do agree that it doesn't meet what you wanted, and I am hoping that we can work with staff to make sure that we get there, and that whether whether we need to outline steps better, or, what it is that we need to do better to make sure that we're getting that, because this is the first one, and so that's the reason I'm thinking this is where all the growing pains are going to happen. So I will support this, but I do agree that we need to get staff to go ahead and give us more of a report on the apprenticeship program.
Councilmember Meredith?
I'll say up front that I am going to support this for what the city is avoiding litigation, but first off, the apprenticeship program, that to even write such a letter seems almost as if it wasn't even thought through. It seems like it was a joke, and it seems like a lot more effort could have been put into this, and I don't think that they did. And on top of that, I have an issue with the approximate of 10 cubic yards of asbestos in there. Being the age and date of that particular portion of the landfill, in my opinion, 10 cubic yards is just, that's not even fathomable to me, especially with Rainier Mill and the other areas. I'm not surprised that they found 7,200 cubic yards of asbestos in the area. I definitely would have expected far more than 10 cubic yards.
Councilmember Days? Well, does anyone care to make a motion? Everyone supports this recommendation.
I'll make a motion. Recommendations to, I move to ratify the settlement agreement by approving and authorizing the city manager to sign change order number 12 for the landfill cell stabilization contract, project SW0212 with Magna Pacific Corporation in the amount of $300,000, including tax, increasing the total contract amount to $14,540,552.64.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second that.
It's been moved in second. Motion's been stated, so is there any further discussion, please?
I didn't weigh in on it earlier, but because I didn't need to talk twice, but I think this is just a fabulous settlement. I think that it really goes highly on the negotiating, positioning that we've had, and it's especially nice to hear that we're $1 million under budget instead of what was said at the public comment period 2 weeks ago, indicating we're $3 million over budget. So, it's a win-win for everybody, and I do agree that we need to look at the apprenticeship issues of that, and that's important, because that's been approved. So, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a great settlement.
I think it's also an excellent settlement, and I commend staff for doing such a fine job to get such a good settlement for the city. And I think Councilmember Whittam, because without your apprentice program, we wouldn't have had apprentices. They were locally hired apprentices, and maybe, they didn't hit the 100% mark, but we got apprentices on this job, and I think that's terrific too. So I'm very pleased. So Councilmember Whittam.
Yeah, I'd like to make one final comment on this topic. At 7:04 p.m., there were several members of the council actually espousing jobs concerning the EDC. And when I try to speak about jobs, I don't seem to have the support here from council. We have policy in place. I think to merely dismiss our previously agreed upon municipal code change, which actually demands that they can't bring in their entire workforce, even from out of state. I think I would like a lot more support here about, again, municipal code adoption 2 years ago. This is the first project under that adoption. So it seems like there's a lot of talking going up here, but I'd sure like some more support on this apprenticeship.
Thank you. All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, thank you so much. Let's move to J2 on page J7. Mr. Olson, please.
Council members, this is the purchase of a number of servers for IT that was previously included in the council-approved capital facilities plan, as well as the IT strategic plan, and the 2016 adopted budget by council. So this just actually authorizes the purchase. We had set aside $150,000 for this. The purchase price will come in at about $147,000, so there's a slight savings. Part of what this does is, before we had individualized servers that handled each individualized task area. We are now moving to what is called virtual servers. Think of it like we're moving from an individual single-family house to a large condominium where we partition the server to different areas. So we achieve better savings for the servers, and also we add additional storage space, which makes it much more efficient for our operation. The old servers coming offline will then go into our testing platform and be used for testing before we go live with any software or any software upgrades. We run a full testing on that to make sure that it works. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
What is the expected use of the new servers, longevity-wise? I see 5 years, we're on the old ones.
These typically are 5 to 7 years. Part of what we're facing now is as more and more servers and the software requires better performing servers, we have to upgrade the servers to match the software. But we anticipate that these should serve between 5 and 7 years before needing to be replaced.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
We'll just, I move that, I guess, to recommend staff to move forward with a hardware purchase on the Washington State contract through IBM/Lenovo Business Partner Nordic Systems.
Is there a second?
Is that your motion? I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we purchase this. Yes, any further comment on the motion made by Councilmember Brooke for the server replacement? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Does anyone need a short break? I cannot feel my legs. Okay, let's stand up, take a short 10-minute break. Hang on, Mayor, we need a 10-minute break. Back here. Councilmember Whitt.
We still have Pat?
All right.
We still have Pat?
Thank you all, and now we'll get back. We're at the K, which is council reports. Councilmember Collins.
Full report.
All right, Councilmember Whitt.
My report tonight is going to actually center on what occurred earlier this evening. It's unfortunate that we did cut the public comment period, and contrary to what was stated, I've never witnessed the public comment session being cut so short, and I'm sorry as a city council member that that occurred to the members of the public here tonight.
Councilmember Bates.
I'm going to report that I attended the PA CAN meeting. That was a joint two-part meeting last week with prosecuting attorney Mark Nichols leading half the group and Chief Gallagher leading the other half of the group to discuss ways that we can help with local issues such as drug abuse and crime issues and things like that. It was reported pretty well in the paper from what I noticed, and I just want to thank the chief and also Mark on the county side for taking their extra time and doing this. It's really important. There's a huge crowd of really concerned citizens that are digging in to help out. And then also I touched on attending the EDC dinner. Very successful evening. It was very fulfilling to see so many local business people banding together to do good things for potentials in the county. Thanks.
Thank you. I also attended the EDC dinner, and the businesses there were just so supportive and positive on the EDC and the momentum that was created. It was just wonderful to see so many good business leaders there. And last Saturday, and Mr. Delicata, you can help me with this, last Saturday was really a special day in Port Angeles. It was the day that, and Councilmember Brooke was there, and Councilmember Collins was there. The Vern Burton, we have a Vern Burton gym, but and it's named after Vern Burton because he was the amazing coach that trained and supported the kids that we became national champions, junior badminton champions, time after time after time for years. So, Corey, could you just tell us just a little bit about it? Because I was able to attend, and it was just heartwarming and a wonderful part of our history that was fabulous.
It was a great event. I was really happy how it went off. I think that one thing that I got out of it that I really enjoyed was that the fact that we got to bring forward the community memorial wall again. It's been 18 years since K.O. Erickson had been placed on the wall. So it was 18 years since someone's been on that. So I hope it sparks interest in nominations for further on. Vern Burton's granddaughter was able to attend with her family, and it was a great event.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Just two things. One, I guess I would ask staff and the mayor, because the mayor is in charge of putting the agenda with staff on how the meetings are going to be run. And they made a decision to go ahead and shorten the comment period. One of the things that I would wish is that in the comment period, if we are going to shorten it in the future, that we let the people know that we're only going to have a 30-minute one or 45-minute or whatever it is that gets agreed on, because this did take the public by surprise. And because it took the public by surprise, you do have people who are a little upset. And rightly so. So I would say, if in the future when we do reduce our comment period, if we can please have the time in there so that the public is aware of what that means. The other thing is that, I did attend the legislative days for the cities. I'll have you know that your legislators are really hard work. It was really wonderful to meet with them, to know that they have our best interest in mind, and they really are looking out for us. So I just thought I'd let you guys know. It was a pleasure. Truly, this time they were able to make time for all of us, and we had some really good conversations with them. So,
Mayor Downey, are you still with us?
Yes, thank you.
Do you have a report, sir?
Well, just briefly, I was able to as well join with Sissy and yourself and Byron to Olympia last week. While I returned there from the conference with pneumonia, while I was there, I did much appreciate the opportunity to meet with our three state representatives. I thought the time with them was quality time, and enjoyed the opportunity to be with the three of you during those couple of days. And to those comments made just a moment ago, that I would remind all of you at the dais and those in the audience, there is a second public comment period coming up shortly. So I would be hesitant to say the discussion has been limited tonight. I do respect that in future we need to make a very be specific on how long the first public comment period will be, so there will be no surprises in that regard. But there is a second public comment period for those of you remaining there this evening. I would encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity when it's presented here shortly.
Thank you. Now it's time for information. City manager report, please.
You bet, Deputy Mayor and Council. Before we do that, there is one item that is a potential committee assignment, and I'll have Director West talk about that the council can weigh in on at this time.
Madam Deputy Mayor and Council, we did receive an email request from the Executive Director of the Fairview Life Center, and that request was that Councilmember Sissy Brook be on the facility group that is taking a look at the RFP that they recently issued. They are looking at future facility needs, and they asked that Councilmember Sissy Brook represent council on that committee, considering that we are aware that council needs to do some additional work on the council appointment policy relative to council appointments to committees. We wanted to bring it forward to the full council for consideration before we move forward with that.
Council?
I would have no objection to that at all. I think you'd be a great representative.
Is that something you're interested in, accepting and have the time?
I would absolutely love to do that. I will make the time for this because I think it's very important, and I was actually very grateful that they asked me. So, but I definitely want staff to bring this up to all council so that if somebody else would want to serve or something, it would be open as well.
Is there?
May I make just a brief comment that given the busyness of Sissy's calendar, but notwithstanding her, I think she would be a highly effective and valuable member in this assignment. We may want to consider an alternate here that in something comes up in her schedule she cannot attend. We are not absent from that day.
That would be an idea.
So I would just make sure that we consider an alternate here in this position.
All right. Councilmember Whitten?
Yeah, I'd like to actually take this opportunity to thank staff as well as Councilmember Brook for full public transparency involving this committee discussion. I really appreciate it from both of you. Thank you.
So do we have a consensus for Councilmember Brook to accept this assignment? Yes. And now what about an alternate? So anyone interested in an alternate position? Well, Mayor, you can discuss that.
I'll take care of the other.
Okay, you can discuss that.
There's actually one other item that hasn't been addressed yet since we've actually voted on a new mayor and a deputy mayor, and that is the farmers market Saturdays. That hasn't been discussed or communicated with City Council, and I'm waiting for orders from above on that.
Well, we can request a memo from Cherie to council members, and we can start filling that in. Thank you. Okay, City Manager.
Okay, we have a lot of reports and minutes in your packet, and you can get a hold of the appropriate director and go over any questions you have concerning those. There are a couple things I'd like to quickly bring to your attention. We do have the 911 Center Regionalization Study, and if you have any questions on that, get a hold of Chief Gallagher. Also, the council directed staff to put together a thank you letter to the Polar Pioneer and have the mayor sign that, and that's in your packet also. That was sent out. And also, the council committee, board, and commission assignments is in your packet. You may want to take that out, save that, and look at that on occasion. And it looks like you're going to be pretty busy this year. So if you have any questions specifically of staff, we'd be glad to answer those at any time. And the one action item I do have from tonight's meeting is to bring up the farmer's market, make sure we start putting that together for this year.
And I do have one quick question for, about is Public Works, for some of the contracts. As I was going through it, and, you know, they look great, but there's a couple of things that I noticed when it says complete, they were over 100%. So I just, you know, when it's complete, I would suspect 100% is good, but 130%, I don't know how much better that is. And I gather that it also, as I looked at it, it's obvious that it's, you know, with the total and that you get a percentage that way, but I guess it doesn't show that completeness, so I don't, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Can you, let's see. Well, we can talk afterwards, if you can
Take like
show which one.
Page L8, the very first item on there is, let me see, from Aspen Consulting. You know, it just shows 138% completed.
Well, these are task numbers. So when you have the consultant, so you have the total project amount with various tasks for each task. Well, some tasks you might only take to 50% because of the budget. So that there was maybe a $10,000 line item for that task under, and you might have only cost $5,000 to $10,000. So it's 50% for that task, while other tasks might have gone over because there was a higher work effort. So, you know, I can go through each of these and
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was just surprised that, so it's actually not necessarily task completed as much more as budget spent for the task.
yeah, man hour, and that usually goes by man hours. We negotiate a labor cost for the various trades in a consulting contract. And then it goes by, then you do a estimate of the man hours for that task. So sometimes that task will get more complicated and you have to do additional drilling or additional research on that task. So it goes above the estimated man hours, but then we keep it under the total budget for that entire project.
So is it possible then to add an extra column that says actually as to being completed, as to the task being completed, not necessarily, I don't know, maybe that's extra. Never mind, I'll come back and talk to you.
Yeah, let's talk offline and go through those, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, now we are at the second public comment period at the end of our meeting. So there are some people who have signed up who haven't had a chance to speak, and I will call out their names. I just want to explain that normally in the past, when we start our meetings, we have ceremonials, and then we normally had about 15 minutes of the comment period. That's been our normal standard, and we have deviated in the last few months because we've had a lot of extra guests. So we normally stop by 6:30 because that's the time for public hearings and to start our business. So we kind of got back to normal tonight, but we have a second public comment period, and Robert Flood and Ron Richards are next up. So we can come to the microphone, please.
Robert Flood, View Vista Park. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. These are the times that try men's souls. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet, we have this consolation with us. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Thomas Paine could not have been more right if he said these words today. Your senior staff took the time to develop a diverse set of alternatives to your December fluoride decision. One, a seeming win-win. Those that want it, get it. Those that don't, won't. But instead of accepting the suggestion, you chose to ignore compromise. There was a comment about Port Angeles being a backwater city without fluoride. In that vein, is Bell Hill Appalachia? Is Port Townsend Mayberry? You, the Fluoride Four, have made an error in judgment. In the same normalcy of deviance that preceded the Challenger disaster, you refuse to acknowledge it. You have developed your own definition to this situation that seemingly allows you to carry on as if nothing was wrong. You aren't acting as if you did nothing wrong. You actually believe it. Like the elected officials in Flint, Michigan, you seem to know what is right for the people, regardless of what they tell you. Instead of working towards compromise, the four-eyed four says, as long as we count the votes, what are you going to do about it? Echoing the corrupt New York political machine of Tammany Hall. To paraphrase Honest Abe, I believe that this council cannot endure permanently half for fluoride, half against. I do not expect this council to be dissolved, nor do I expect it to fall. I do, however, expect it to cease being divided. We, the people, will be here meeting after meeting to remind you that no means no. My observation of the behavior of the past few meetings remind me of the four horsemen outlined against the pristine beauty of the snow-capped Olympics. The four horsemen ride again with ignorance and stubborn demeanor. In dramatic lore, they were known as famine, pestilence, death, and destruction. But they are merely aliases, for their real names may as well be Downey, Collins, Kidd, and Gibbs. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I hope you feel better, sir, since everyone is here.
Ladies and gentlemen, personal insults are inappropriate.
Yes. Our respect and courtesy.
It's a business class.
All right. All right. This meeting is adjourned. This meeting is adjourned.
There was no motion.
Your last comment was unconstitutional. That gentleman had the right to speak to that issue. And to cut him off is denying his First Amendment rights, ma'am. And to cut me off is denying my First Amendment rights. So
if you can control yourself and calm down, we can continue. This is inappropriate. This is uncivil, and we can do better than this.
Yes.
We can all do better than this. I would like to hear the public comments, but we were not here to have insults.
Microphone.
It's inappropriate behavior.
You can't give insult, you can only take it.
Meeting's adjourned.
There's no motion.
That man has
There's
the
no
right to
motion.
speak. He's on the docket.
well, I'll keep speaking if they don't want to listen to me.
Go ahead.
A number of years ago, I was a county commissioner here, and we had a policy of letting people speak as long as they wanted to. And we thought that their time was more important than our time. And we tried to listen to what they say rather than to cut them off at the first opportunity. And I think this performance tonight was despicable. We had a lady here who was a well-respected county commissioner who was offering a very well-reasoned comment, and she was very rudely cut off. That's uncalled for.
3 minutes.
And
Everybody got 3 minutes.
Well, 3 minutes is enough.
What he said, they got as much as they lied them.
But anyway, this 3-minute thing is just an insult to your constituents. And as I told Mr. Collins earlier tonight, you brought this extreme interest in public affairs upon yourself, and you should live with the consequences of it, and you should listen to your constituents. But I wanted to address one thing. 2 weeks ago, I submitted a request for public documents on a very important thing, and I'm yet to receive a response to it. But I found in the fluoride contract a statement, an indemnity provision, indemnifying the Washington Dental Service Foundation for all health effects. Any damages from the health effects of fluoride, the city has guaranteed to pay the Washington Dental Service for. And I was just wondering why that was necessary if these same people are telling you there's no problem with fluoride. And so I asked for
further documents where you have maybe asked questions about that provision and I've yet to receive them. So I would very much like to see this. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Go ahead.
Thank you, Lee. I did sign up earlier tonight.
Speak up. Speak up.
Can you hear me?
No.
Turn it off.
It's off. It's off.
Okay. I did sign up for the first period to speak, but when my turn came, we were shut down on it. I signed up to speak about fluoride issue, but I'm beginning to think that was been talked to death, and we still have the fluoride 4 that will not listen to the will of the people. So I plan to speak at the second session and especially try to get a point across to that fluoride 4, which have evidently left the room because they do not want to hear the voice of the people. What I was going to do is also point out signs that they seem to have put up in there, abridging our First Amendment rights, saying we can't have signs to express our freedom of speech. And to show my protest against those that will not listen to us, tell us to shut up, sit down, want us to go away. I was going to take the last 2 minutes, I won't do it now because they're not here to get the point, and treat them the way they treat the people. I was going to turn my back on them with my timer and say, do not interrupt my choice of freedom of speech. I will be heard.
Would like to speak, just go ahead. I'm not going to call on you. Just line up and we'll listen. Just go ahead and line up, sir. Anyone else?
Is Mayor Downey still there?
I've got no idea. The microphones are all cut off.
Councilman Collins is still here.
The mic's off.
I see Councilman Collins is still here, so he hasn't left the room. Thank you. My name's Marilyn Harbaugh, 312 West 5th Street, Port Angeles. I'm not part of any group, and I don't know, maybe fluoride is the right decision, but it's not the right decision for the advice that the staff has given you. I thought it was very gracious of City Manager Dan McKean last week to offer to be the fall guy, to take the blame for what he called a flawed survey. That was a really gracious thing. And at almost every meeting, you ask City Attorney Bloor what his opinion is on the decisions that are being made. However, he and the rest of the staff gave you a recommendation that this was not the right road to go down in view of the will of the people and what it was going to cost this city and the people if there is a movement to change the whole structure of the city. And I wasn't going to sign the petition that went around for that because I didn't want to be part of disrupting this city organization. There's enough to be dealt with for real. However, after this evening, the way we were treated, I did sign. And I think it's a doggone shame that we're going to have to go down that road. A doggone shame. And it's not too late. This is Groundhog Day. You get another chance. I hope you get another chance. I hope you bring this up and take another chance. Thank you.
Yes, I'm up. My name's Charlie Crane. I live at 336 East Whitby in Port Angeles, and I'm thanking you for the opportunity to speak at your forum.
A little louder, please. Louder, Cherie.
There's just a couple of things I would have a concern about. One is your composites investment over there with taxpayer dollars. I used to teach that, and I think they should have been a lot further along by now, and I've not heard from anyone in the articles in the paper that really speak like they're actually going to accomplish anything with that. It's all kind of speculative.
And I think a lot can be done with that for the private sector jobs of a lot of people who are out of work in this town. So many really wonderful things can be made with those non-metallics and composites. I would suggest the prosthetics industry, military safety equipment, and just helmets. People can do so much with that, and for the materials needed to do that, I think you ought to look at that again. And the graffiti problem in this town I addressed when I first came here and talked to all the police about it, and it is a big problem, and it's growing, and it's just a grapevine for the drug dealers and the kids. It leads to other things. And what I found out was that the city fines business owners $150 a day for not painting out their own graffiti. Instead of spending some of that money on a paint wagon, the local profitable businesses could help support with the paint and things. And I even offered to do one, and they said, well, help yourself. I thought that was a lack of interest on that. Ask Joe Arpaio about that, what it costs the city of Phoenix annually to deal with graffiti. The other thing is this really rare opportunity to put some effort into your public access channel. You could do that with the university, like it's done quite a few other places. And I believe you could get a lot of information shared out there that you don't actually have to fund yourselves with your own money. Public access has been around for a long time, and it allows everybody to take their grievance out there and put it out on the nationwide web. So with that, stay with it. You're doing a good job, and you've got to you've just got to avoid the negative criticisms. They're not doing anybody any good. And but maybe the rest of these meetings would be a little better well conducted without Cherie around. Who knows?
I just want to remind everybody, you can be either side of fluoride. This is totally public comment. So again, we appreciate hearing from the community on this. We don't have a microphone.
Can I read for Eloise?
Marilee, would you mind?
I'll be really fast.
Go for it, go ahead.
So what I've been hearing, I've listened to all of the comments from our four, and they all kept saying it was for the poor children. And that premise was basically that...
It's just a minute, Mary.
What's going on? I don't know what it's... It's my 3 minutes.
Go.
Go ahead. So, the premise was that these poor children have bad parents because they have no money. No money means no brushing. Poor equals bad teeth. And we assume that we need our 4 city council people to look out for them, and that's fine for these poor dumb parents. So I went to the 2010 census. We have 19,038 people in Port Angeles as of the 2010 census. 5.9% were under age 5, 20.6 were under age 18. So that's 26.5 people we're talking about in this town. Of the poverty level, 18% of the total of the 19.5 are in poverty. So of these 26 children, that's 5,045 children. 18% means we're talking about 908 poor children in this town. We're talking about 908 children that are being served. 908 of the total population is 4.77% of our population. So what we're hearing here is 4.77% of the population rules the 95.23% of the rest of us.
Show the camera.
Of the 99,668 municipal water users, 43% said no. For those of you who are bad at math, too bad Cherie's not here, 43.477 is less than that. This is bigger, this is smaller. Every one of these arguments given by our 4 city council members who voted for it
gave ad hominems. An ad hominem is an argument that doesn't address the issue. It addresses the standing. We're not dentists. We're not doctors. We're stupid. It addresses character. We're nutballs. We're crazy. We're pseudoscientists. It addressed premise. Oh, not good studies, not supported by the Delta Dental, not supported by the ADA. So the conclusions were based on issues that weren't part of the argument. The argument is, we don't want fluoride. Can you hear us? Can you all say it?
Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Janet Kalin, reading Dr. Eloise Kalin's speech for her. She's from Sequim, Washington. 5 former Port Angeles mayors have written a commentary in Peninsula Daily News, February 27th. They charge opponents of fluoridation with incivility, as expressed by noisy expressions and interruptions. Incivility is indeed regrettable, but a bad example of an exaggerated nature has been set not by citizens, but by the former Fluoride 6 and the present Fluoride 4. Let me explain. 4 of these complaining mayors quite literally forced fluoridation down the throats of city water consumers. The action started at a regular council meeting February 18, 2003, when a one and only fluoridation hearing devoted its first nearly 2 hours to an orchestrated pro-fluoride presentation, and only after that allowed others to testify. The hearing lasted until almost 11 p.m. A motion by Councilman Larry Williams to delay action for a week to consider the lengthy testimony died for lack of a second. The remaining 6 councilmen, now dubbed the Fluoride 6, then approved fluoridation contingent on receipt of $260,000 from Washington Services Dental Foundation. A steamroller job. Citizens rebelled, obtaining rights of initiative and referendum, wrote 2 initiatives and qualified them for the ballot. The city then disallowed a vote by requiring a court review. We still believe this review was unjustified. We note that 4 of 9 Supreme Court justices shared our view that citizens were legally entitled to this vote. Citizens lost, however, 5-4. These mayors forget that actions of the Fluoride 6 and presently the Fluoride 4 are far more intrusive than mere incivility. Economic harm affects residents who have left town, who've purchased expensive filters or bottled water. Emotional stress affects those jealous of their rights to refuse medication, their right, and for some a medical need, for less polluted water. Some have developed medical conditions of suspected relationship to the fluoride. The city is subject to liability, not the suppliers or dental foundation. These mayors charge that we are threatening you by a proposed change of government. In our view, we have issued a constructive warning notice that our members seek greater accountability to citizens and are currently circulating a petition to be voted on in a general election. Our concerns now are not only fluoridation, but fiscal accountability. The proposed governance change will give more power to citizens and less power to the council.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after witnessing what I just saw, I just want to urge the city. I know, you guys,
Your name.
you ladies, my name's Julia Engel. Y'all work really hard, and I think that Port Angeles is a cool place, but this is about to get national attention, how we're being treated. And it's not, we're all going to be like, nobody wants to deal with this. And I know, especially, y'all don't want to deal with this, but this is really bad. This is bad. And so we've got to do something, and I know some actions are going around, but that being said, and then I just want to add, respectfully,
You know, in my opinion, to give another opinion on like the graffiti issue, some people call it graffiti, I call it street art. I don't think the problem is graffiti. I think the problem is the youth not having a creative outlet to express themselves because they're not being heard, they're upset, they're disenfranchised, they're destructive, and, you know, damn kids with their skateboards. But we need to channel this creativity and use it to make our town better. And I actually think that if we had more free spaces where good artists could come in and do murals and do really nice things with it, would inspire people to become better artists and to channel that into something positive. Because when we channel, when we suppress our emotions, when we suppress our ideas, those things tend to eat at us from the inside out. And that's why we see so much drug use manifest in our community. You know, pro-creativity, pro-solution is something I really hope this city can start going in, and especially with issues like this, we need to be creative in finding solutions, and we need to work together and, you know, respect each other's opinions and definitely have open dialogue discussions about all these things. But I am worried that this is going to draw a lot of really negative attention to the city because what Cherie did tonight was really bad. Yeah.
I'm Jerome Metley. I live in West 11th Street, 622. I want to echo the fact that, yeah, what Cherie did is horrible. There's no way to close this meeting when there are so many people who want to speak up, and she's basically disrupting the voices of people, and I think that's really horrible.
What we experienced tonight is really serious. What we experienced tonight is really serious. This kid abused power.
Yes.
And she needs to be accountable.
Yeah.
We have freedom of speech. She violated that. So, what are we going to do about that?
Recall, yeah, whatever, recall.
Well, I'm going to ask for a legal opinion on that.
Technically, we've cut our official meeting off, so I would not expect that to be answered by Attorney Bloor tonight. So I'd have to stop that.
And he's the attorney for the council, not for
You can
you.
ask it next week.
We have our own
Our
attorney.
next session.
We weren't expecting Mr. Bloor to answer for us.
Okay, you were looking my way, so I thought I'd jump in there. Sorry.
Well, show character. Go for it, Lee.
I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Tom Jacobson. I live at 173 Lake Farm Road. And my first question is, how is the meeting conducted? Is it Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, just a brief little thing here. We were big discussion tonight about asbestos. Well, remember in 1945, when Tom Hawk cited his survey from 1945, we thought asbestos was a good thing. Now all of a sudden we're spending $1 million to get rid of something. You know, and the same thing is with fluoride.
I'm Mike Libera, 316 Power Plant Road. I'm president of Concerned Citizens for Safe Drinking Water, and I'm vice president, proud to say, under Dr. Eloise Clallam, Our Water, Our Choice. And I just thought you'd be interested to know that tonight alone, we have over 70 new signatures to add to the ones we already have. Cindy, 2530 West State Street.
It's not on.
Oh, that's right.
Cindy,
Hold the microphone down, Cindy. It is on.
That'll make me feel better.
It is
it's
on.
on. You can talk into
It
it.
is on. Go ahead.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. No. Because I don't have
of speech thing. I believe that if we had had the fluoride vote before the November election, the November election would have come out differently with possibly a city council member or two. I do believe that. I thought it was a little bit suspicious the other way around. And the other thing, I'm shaking the whole thing, this is going to affect, the whole tourism thing. I bet even what few people are left in the room, like I have 4 kids, and they know people all over the world, actually, because they work at Lake Crescent Lodge. You meet people from all over the United States, all over the world. 2 of them work out of state. And like gossip, this person tells that person, tells 5 people. Spending all money to get people to come to Port Angeles, it is a wonderful place. But with this kind of stuff going on, with I hate to call it dirty politics, but I feel like part of it is. And it's going to be felt by people. Like we're all so disgruntled. The people generally are nice. That's what brought me here 40 years ago. And if the people are great, but some of the stuff I'm seeing, it's really hard to stay quiet and keep myself shut up, not to make noise. So anyway, I think it's going to come into the tourism problem as well. So.
Rose Marshall, 162 South Bar Road. And what I would like to point out that this document that is going to be passed, and there's more than 70, because I saw hers and mine, and that makes another 10, and I just gathered mine in like 5 minutes. Everyone wants to say, I want to point out that this turns our city into a second-class city. Well, guess what? Don't be scared of that. That doesn't mean anything. They're trying to scare you with a second-class city.
Strong mayor.
Guess what? A Port Gamble has a city. Port Gamble's pretty good. Go drive over to Port Gamble, check them out. It's a nice little city. So I wouldn't be scared by the second-class city. And by the way, we can always change it back once we get in a city council that actually respects the will of the people. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
So all of this will be on the Clallam Public
Orchard, sorry, Port Orchard. I said the wrong city.
Okay. Gail's edition. So everything's on the public live. I'll get that up as quickly as I can. For those of you who didn't see last week's meeting, it's in 2 parts. Public comment, part 1, part 2, their discussion, and the rest of their meeting. Tonight's not quite as long, thank you. But I made a comment to Dr. Kennedy, Dr. Birch, Dale Wilson, and I want to mention to Mr. McCain. I said to them, doctors, you can be the heroes. Now that sounds strange coming from me, but let me tell you how you can be the hero. 1, stop the fluoride and come up with a great system to take care of the kids. We know that Dale sent a letter about a new shiny Smile-mobile that would go to the schools and put on treatments and etc. I say every kid when they start school in September gets a new toothbrush, and at every lunchtime they brush their teeth. We know they'll be doing it at least 1 time a day. Amen. If not, find solutions. I said to Dale, public television, put on a telephone. Let's find a telethon. Let's find a way to come up with the money that they say is so exorbitant to run this kind of program. We, the city and the county, can do this. We can take care of these kids. There are solutions, and that's where I'm asking you, that committee that you're putting together, I don't care. I don't have to be the pride. If the doctors need to be the elitists and show us their knowledge is absolutely phenomenal, then do the right thing, doctors, because this split in the city is bad. This split in the city is bad, and we need to find the solution. Amen. I was going to talk, but as far as finances, my kids went to Fairview School. They're 31 and 35 now. They handed free fluoride out at Fairview School back then. I was the only parent that didn't allow my children to have it because it was a signed thing to do that. My sister-in-law Jody gives her children fluoride. It costs her less than a penny a dose. And the woman that presented with the handout, what was the number? 400 children?
900.
900. Yeah, I don't want you to teach my children about birth control and you don't have to brush my kids' teeth. That's what makes us better parents, is learning to take care of us. We'll never learn to take care of us. This is force feeding. This is a bad deal.
Hang on for a second.
Show the camera.
In my mind's eye, this isn't about fluoride at all anymore. After tonight, it was really, really clear that from the beginning, they had decided that they were going to curtail public comment. It was clear that they did not want to hear from the public. It was clear by the end of the meeting, they were doing everything they could not to listen to the people. The solution is really simple, and it was very interesting that this was put on the table in front of Cherie Kidd, who wouldn't touch it.
Show it to me.
What does it say?
And it says, Gase, Kidd, Collins, Downey, for the good of Port Angeles, step down now. To me, what this has gotten to is we cannot tolerate the kind of behavior we saw tonight by our elected representatives. It's just that simple. No other issue counts anymore. If they dare do that to us, they came to us, asked for our vote so that they could represent our interests, and then they went through everything they went through tonight, not to hear from us, no more. That cannot be tolerated.
Hi, I wasn't going to speak here tonight, but my name is Lisa and I live on South Regent Street. I go to the Peninsula College and I'm one of the international students. So as an international student, I came here last year, and so I'm completely not on any side, not on fluoridation. I'm not against it, I'm not for it, but America has always seemed to me like a place of democracy. You guys, people, democratic system, you know, people, the government, you guys are the government, you guys rule yourself, you guys make choices, and that's not what I'm seeing tonight. So that's all I want to say, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
All right, Rob. Getting advancements.
Why don't you finish? Everybody heard, right? Yes. No. Before I apologize, you ended the meeting. I ruined the meeting, I'm sorry. That's actually why I came up. I really believe everybody should have had a chance to have said what they wanted to say. Whether they believe in me, they're against what I believe in, they need me to speak louder. And I apologize. I guess I struck a nerve. So I was saying that in my observation of the behavior of the past few meetings, it reminds me of the Four Horsemen, outlined against the pristine beauty of the snow-capped Olympics, which I thought was a good thing. It's a beautiful place to be. I'm glad I moved here. The Four Horsemen ride again with ignorance and stubborn demeanor, which, wow, did that explode. They were known, in dramatic lore, they were known as famine, pestilence, destruction, and death. I guess they could be offended. But they're merely aliases, for their real names may as well be. I didn't say their names were, so it's not an insult. And I know, I'm from New Jersey. If someone said I was pestilence, destruction, death, and famine, I take it as a good thing. But no, I said their name. So I was just coming up to apologize to the fellow council members that stayed. All four of them, because there's still one here. I don't know if I should say his name because other people might get mad. And to those that actually wanted to speak and weren't able to be heard by the town council and the mayor. And the staff, which has stayed here even longer. So thank you.
Last chance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, that was all good.